Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Destin Thomas, but outside of work and school, everyone just usually calls me D. I wanted to welcome you to, it's actually the second mini mastermind session with a focus on real estate and real estate related matters, among other business topics as well. If this is your first time here, this group is essentially intended to live in the space between a meetup group and a mastermind group, where it's a bit more involved than a normal meetup would be, but a little less on the intensive side than a mastermind group would be. So, I do see a couple familiar faces and some new faces that are here this time around. So I thank you all for joining and, coming to sharing the knowledge and the learning experience. And hopefully you guys can all get something out of it. This kind of thing isn't for everybody. So I'm just glad that you all came. It's an open interactive forum. So feel free to ask questions, provide answers, share any of your stories, and hopefully we can all learn from each other. And we'll just go ahead and just jump right into it. And we got here, so I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of what we'll be talking about today. So we'll do a couple introductions. It's a no pressure situation, and then we'll actually talk about some wins. If anybody has any wins to share with the group since the last meeting, that would be awesome. I have one that I'll just share with everybody as well too. And then we're going to talk today a little bit about land trusts. And I don't know if many people out there have come across the story of Disney World and Project X, as they call it, and the story behind how Walt Disney acquired and got the land for Disney World. And it's applicable to what we're going to be talking about today. So I thought I'd share that with everyone. It's a really interesting story. And then we'll touch on a little bit as far as asset protection goes and why you're probably still at risk, because a lot of people tend to drop the ball. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't know what you don't know, right? So it's not necessarily their fault, but we'll go over that a little bit today as well too. And then and like I said, it's open format, but then we'll also have time for questions and networking at the very end as well too. So and then as you know, from the very first session that we did last time, I kind of like to start it with a quote of the day to kind of set the theme for everything. And the quote for today is going to be, "Every man has two lives, and the second begins when he realizes he has just one." And Confucius said that. And I remember the first time I heard that, it kind of hit me it hit me on a deep level. And so I wanted to share that with everybody. A lot of people maybe you guys have even heard that saying, use your 9 to 5 to pay for your 5 to 9. And that's very true, because a lot of people, they put aside their the disposable income specifically for their side hustles to make that side hustle their main hustle. So I like to extend it out by saying, use your 9 to 5 to pay for your 5 to 9 until you can do it full time. And so, I know a lot of us here are trying to do that today. And so that's why I felt like this quote was pretty applicable to the theme today. So now we're going to go and touch on the introductions portion of the session. I'll drop my contact info in the chat for everyone. Feel free to also drop yours in there as well too. So I'll kind of start with the introductions myself. So my name is Destin once again, but most people just call me D, from Los Angeles, California, and I'm a rookie investor. I fit into the category of only being in investing for about 11 months with my first investment property. Been working in finance for ever since about 2006. First generation college graduate. I've been a skateboarder for about 24 years. I love that. That's kind of my other side passion that I've been doing for a long time. And my investment focus has been on small multifamily. And so I basically wanted to start this mini mastermind group because I wanted to be a resource for people. I wish there was somebody there for me that I could have reached out to when I first started to kind of give me that guidance and direction. And essentially, I just love to be able to give guidance, advice, and just help in any way that I can. So I'm even willing to take it to the point of doing a one-on-one Zoom session with you. We can take a deep dive in whatever kind of situation that you're in, and we can try and figure it out together. Obviously all free of charge. I'm not here for the money and social media fame and all that stuff. Like I said, I just want to be a resource and help people out, and so that we all can succeed. All right. So with that said, all right. So like I said, we're going to do some brief introductions, only if you feel comfortable doing so. You don't have to, only if you want to. You'll say your name, where you're from, and what category you fall into. But I just ask that you try and keep it to 30 seconds or less, since we have a bit to talk about today. All right. So do we have any brave volunteers out there?
Sure. My name's Robert. I'm from San Diego. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing about 16 years, rookie investor as well. I started last August. I own 6 single family properties out in Kansas City. So Kansas City and Independence, looking to move into small multifamily. So
all right. Any other
What's up,
takers out there?
guys? I'll go next. My name's Pete. I'm from Los Angeles. I just recently moved to San Diego. I'm an agent investor. I've worked with Destin before. I've got a 4-unit in Long Beach, and I'd say I feel like I'm semi-experienced, but I'm pretty much kind of still a rookie, learning. About 2 years experience, and I guess my win is just recently moving to San Diego, and I've been kind of moving towards that for a little while. I'm also looking to invest in Kansas City, so I'd be interested in chatting with Robert too. So that's me.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been meaning to make that introduction as well too. That was one of the ones that we were talking about. So, all right.
My name's Christelle. I am from LA, specifically Inglewood, and I've known Dustin from UCLA econ classes, and I'm definitely a spectator. I definitely want to get into this, which is why I'm here. And yeah, I'm excited for this. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, Crystal. Much appreciated. All right, go Bruins. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else?
Hey, what's up, Dialgo?
All right.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Lamar. Me and my wife, we run a skateboarding school all throughout Los Angeles, Santa Monica, and other places. And we're looking to get a commercial property for our business so we can have our own skate school inside of a property. And so, now that Dee stepped into it, kind of helping me out, like get a little more insight into it before we make the plunge. And then I guess a W for, recently is that we just came out with our children's skateboarding book called Gromlin Universe. If you guys have kids or don't have kids, or just want something to, nice to be on the bookshelf, go ahead and purchase that book, Gromlin Universe, theskateside.com/store. Boom.
There you go. Skateside.com.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Much appreciated. All right.
I can go, D.
Hey, Minka.
Hey.
Hey.
So I'm Minka, a real estate agent here in Los Angeles. I would say I'm more of a rookie. I mostly have just been helping investors buy and sell real estate and, help them achieve their investment goals. So yeah, glad to be on. And, me and Dee are good friends. So
Yeah.
good job, Dee. Love this.
Thank you for sharing, you guys. Much appreciated. All right. So, like I said, if anybody has a win, or you can even tell us about, a problem or a situation that you're currently working on with your business, or anything that's going on with you that we might be able to help with, feel free to share. I mean, I'll go ahead and, kind of get the ball rolling and kind of start with a quick win that I had the other week. And if anyone has one as well, no matter how big or small, in any business or industry, doesn't necessarily have to be real estate, feel free to jump in right after. But yeah, so I actually recently just joined a real estate coaching program in terms of to be coached. And those kind of coaching programs are apparently pretty pricey. So this one in particular that I joined is about $6,000. Luckily, they have a payment program, but it was actually more on the more affordable side of things as far as the ones that I was looking at. And we meet every week. They give you direct coaching and advice and guidance, documentation for certain situations so that you're not wasting time trying to reinvent the wheel when people have been doing it for decades. Additional like step-by-step training videos and specifics that are detailed for your needs. So so it's been pretty interesting. Like I said, I've never done anything like that before. I've done a boot camp, but as far as coaching directly, it's been pretty interesting and it's been pretty good. So gotten a lot of value out of it. Saved a lot of time and hours and months probably. So so it's been going pretty good, and we'll see how it goes. So I figure with that cost of $6,000, it'll pay dividends far beyond that in the future with what I'm learning. So so that was a quick little win that I was able to get. So did anybody else have anything? If you don't, it's okay. Or if there is anything off the top of your head, feel free to share. Okay. That's all right. I know I know a lot of us are still working on those wins. So just keep it in the back of your mind or write it down for next time, and then feel free to share it with us. All right. So we'll go ahead and jump into the real life story as far as like I was saying with Walt Disney and how he established Walt Disney World and was able to accomplish that. And it, like I said, it's a very interesting story, and it is really applicable to even what we're doing and everything like that. So, I know when you think of a real estate mogul, the last person you're probably thinking about is Walt Disney. You're probably thinking Grant Cardone or Brandon Turner or somebody like that. But yeah, obviously, with the type of resources he had to back him, he had a lot of tax professionals and attorneys to assist him. But we're just going to go over the basic story of how he was able to acquire tens of thousands of acres of land for Disney World, and how you can actually do, a more simplified version for yourself to acquire your own land and your own properties and protect yourself at the same time. So we'll go ahead and take a look at it. So for whatever reason, they called it Project X, I think just because it sounded cool or whatever, but then it also got the nickname Project Florida. But yeah, after Disneyland was built, Walt Disney had the vision of building Disney World, but he had a few goals in mind to accomplish that. So he had some parameters in terms of looking for lots of cheap land, and had to be near a major city with good weather and a solid infrastructure. But he had a huge challenge, and that challenge was to get it quietly before anyone could catch on. And the reason being is because once people caught on, obviously prices would start going up, and once they realize a millionaire slash billionaire is buying up all this land. So in 1965, land in Florida was actually selling for about $180 an acre, which in today's dollars is about $1,670 an acre. Disney World's land was acquired using land trusts, and that essentially it allowed him to bypass the inflated pricing from what the locals could potentially have charged him. And land trust legally helped him disguise and hide who was buying up all this land, and for good reason, right? And so let me pull up here. Okay, and the brilliant aspect of it as well on top of that was that he was able to lock up that land using options contracts. Now, options contracts can get pretty confusing, so we're not going to dive too deep into it, but it allowed him to lock in the price for a certain amount of time. So he was able to basically stack up land over time. And yeah, and since, the recording of deeds would draw a lot of attention, essentially, or especially with large deeds, obviously it's pretty apparent why he wanted to keep that on the DL. So yeah, and then like I said, so he essentially was able to buy tens of thousands of acres of land, and he needed a couple thousand that he didn't realize. And so I think he was able to get a couple thousand after the fact, but by that time prices had already jumped up over 1,000%. So imagine yourself buying a TV, a pretty solid, flat screen TV for about $1,670, and then overnight, you come back and then you come to find out it's now $18,370 in today's dollars. So it's pretty obvious why you would want to keep something like that under wraps. So yeah, and then like I said, he was obviously he was able to accomplish that by October of 1971 after Disneyland was opened in 1955. And now here's the crazy part that just kind of blew me away, and I just kind of wanted to share this with you guys anyways. But because of this strategy, he was able to basically buy 47 square miles of land, which is about 30,000 acres. And to kind of put that in perspective, it's about 80 times the size of Monaco, and this is Disney World we're talking about. It's twice the size of Manhattan. It's the same size as all of San Francisco, and Disneyland is only about 300 acres. So if you're looking at this map right here, all this gray area is Disney World. So everything that you see within this gray matter is Disney World. And then basically all of Disneyland can fit just inside Epcot Center. So you see this little red box, that's Disneyland. So that kind of lets you know the why it was very important, why he was able to, or why he wanted to get this land at a decent price when he could. So yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at and see how that was accomplished. And so, hence the land trust. Now, what is a trust? A trust is essentially, oh, well, actually, let's take it back. So when you think of a will, you when you eventually pass away, you kind of want all your assets to go to your heirs and the people that you actually want it to. So you would draw up a will, and then unfortunately, once you pass away, your executors will take that will to court, and then the judge will say, okay, or the judge will appoint the executor and basically say, all right, we got the will here, and you'll be able to disperse the assets as such. But what a trust essentially allows you to do is avoid all that, or probate, as they call it. It allows you to avoid probate by establishing a trust saying, you know, all your assets and everything are encumbered within this trust. And, you know, basically once you pass away, you have a successor come in and then disperse the assets for you. Probably you're still going to want to hire an attorney for that anyways, but you won't have to go through the whole court system and all that good stuff. So that's the whole point of essentially having a trust. So in this case, when we're talking about a land trust, it's basically a trust that holds land. So it's pretty much identical to a normal grantor or living trust that you would come across. And so a trust typically has about three components. The first component is the trustee. So the trustee manages and acts on behalf of the trust and beneficiary, essentially takes orders from that beneficiary, since that's the ultimate owner at the end of the day. And the trustee can be a person, an LLC, a corporation, or what have you. So it's basically just the person that manages the trust for the trust itself. And then you have the grantor, which is the person that provides the assets to fund the trust itself and gives control to the trustee. And then you have a beneficiary. And like I said, the beneficiary essentially is the owner of the trust and can give orders to the trustee. And a lot of the times, if you have a trust of your own, chances are you're all three of these. You're the person that provided the assets, it's for your benefit, and you run things. So a lot of the times it's all with one and the same person. But for all intents and purposes, we want to focus on the nominee. Sorry, let me take a step back. There's actually two key components as well too for the land trust. In this case, is that it provides anonymity. So that's going to be important. So we'll talk about that. But also your trust documents are not public record. So that's obviously going to be a contributing factor to the anonymity aspect of things. But like I said, we want to focus on the nominee trustee aspect of things and beneficiary primarily. And we'll go further into the nominee aspect of things shortly as well. So yeah, like I said, you fund the trust with property like real estate, and you basically avoid probate, from having to go to court. But then you ask yourself, why even set up a land trust to begin with? That essentially the land trust will stand in your place to be on title for the property that you purchased instead of it being in your own name. And we're going to talk about how you can actually implement that, because and you're probably asking yourself, well, why is that important? Because if you become wealthy and let's say on and you have a property and there's a slip and fall, or somebody just comes up with any crazy reason to want to sue you, do you really want everyone knowing that you own numerous properties, giving them more incentive to want to sue you for as much as they can? Probably not. So that's why all this anonymity and the fact that it's not public record really comes into play. So we're going to take a look at another aspect of things. The asset protection vehicle that we're all usually pretty familiar with is a limited liability company, or an LLC for short. So as far as an LLC goes, it is your business entity shield for liability protection. Now that liability protection shield is not guaranteed, and that's where a lot of confusion comes in, because a lot of people think that, oh, okay, once you file the paperwork, you're and it becomes official with the state, then you're good to go. You're 100% protected. It's not the case. But like I said, the LLC can also coincide with the land trust in terms of helping with the anonymity aspect of things as well too. The LLC is a preferred vehicle, asset protection vehicle for real estate. And a lot of times that's for more like the tax benefit aspect of things, and its flexibility and structure, less reporting requirements and things like that. And a limited liability company is public record, but like I said, in conjunction with the land trust, it will essentially be the backing force behind it. And LLCs, like I said, are public record in a lot of states, but each state has its own rules and statutes for LLCs. So you'll want to have to check them out individually for the applicable state that you're working with at the end of the day. And then there's aspects of it. There's manager managed and member managed LLCs, but we're not going to focus on that. That kind of goes beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. But just remember, in the back of your mind, it's an asset protection vehicle. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at, now that we've set up our land trust and we know what our LLC asset protection vehicle is, now how do we put it all to work? What have we all been talking about? How do we follow in Walt Disney's footsteps? So we're going to now go ahead and discuss the nominee trustee. So when you have the word nominee, think of the word synonymous with the word temporary, and it's providing in its whole role is to provide the anonymity aspect of things. So for instance, I have a buddy, his name is You Can Trust Me. Get it? You Can Trust Me. So you basically want to nominate as your nominee somebody that you trust, is usually a friend or somebody close to your family member, or a lot of times an attorney as well too, and they will basically be that temporary person for you to start off with. Okay, and then like I said, we have our LLC, and so just for the sake of this thing, I just titled it Protected Property LLC. So we have our asset protection vehicle. Now we're going to put that to place with the land, put it into play with the land trust here. What I'm going to name my trust is going to be titled 123 Fake Street Land Trust. But as you can see, the land aspect of it was crossed out. So why did I cross that out? I crossed that out because unfortunately, land trusts, even though they're perfectly legal, they're not as well known as just a normal living trust or grantor trust. And lenders tend, and because of that aspect of it, lenders tend to hesitate and become a little apprehensive when they see the word land trust as opposed to living trust or grantor trust. But like I said before, it's simply, it's just basically a living trust or a grantor trust. It's the same exact thing. It just holds real estate or property or your land, all the same thing. And by us crossing it out, it just alleviates confusion at the end of the day. And so you can choose and basically close. And oh yeah, and that's another thing as well too. Because of the fact that it alleviates that confusion, those lenders will then be more comfortable with letting you close on the title of a trust or a land trust in this case, but you would be the only one knowing that it's a land trust at the end of the day. So, so yeah, so then when we take a look at the next thing, so we have our trustee on file who's going to basically sign off on everything. So once you actually close on your property, your nominee trustee is going to sign off on everything. So at the end of the day, they're good. If somebody were to do a title search or, and look up, who owns this property, they're going to see, your buddy Yukin, he's been signing off on everything. And so they're going to say, oh, Yukin, okay, let's look him up. Let's find his phone number. Oh, let's give him a call. So once you give him a call, he's basically going to answer the phone. They're going to ask, oh yeah, we need to talk to the person that owns this property. Oh, okay, I don't own it. Click. So that's your first line of defense right there. And then another pretty cool aspect of it is where you bring in the asset protection of it is you would make your beneficiary the owner of the I should say the now owner who won't be on file, the protected property LLC. So at that point, because like I said, your land trust and your trust documents are not on file, when they pull up the record for that property, they're not going to see the beneficiary being the LLC. So by you making the LLC the beneficiary, you're actually adding on the asset protection of it without at that point, well, it actually acts as two things. So it provides the asset protection of things, but it also avoids what a lot of us are also familiar with in terms of accelerating your loan or the due on sale clause. So a lot of people that want to get a mortgage on their property or investment property, they're not able to close under an LLC. And we're not talking about commercial property, we're just talking about residential. So as far as in this case, like I said, you're not going to be able to close on an LLC, but you want that asset protection. This is the way to do it. This is a super simplified version of how to do it, but that's essentially how it works. And there's dozens of different variations of how you can structure all this. But like I said, that kind of goes beyond the scope of what we're trying to do here. So when you get your purchase agreement and you set up your mortgage, whether you're paying cash or getting a mortgage, any public records will show the owner as 123 Fake Street Trust. So pretty much that's what it is right then and there. So at the end of the day, here's your investment property that you just bought. You got your first protective barrier, some random trust name that you came up with. You're not going to want to tie it back to yourself in any form or fashion, but they're going to see the name of the land trust. So that's your first barrier. You got your second protective barrier, some random trustee, your nominee trustee that you hired temporarily, who's going to sign off on all the documents and then relinquish his control back to you right as soon as you close, and then you're back in control of everything. And then you have your ownership and the protection that goes with it with the LLC. So and that provides both inside and outside protection, which we're going to touch on a little bit during the asset protection component of this section. So like I said, by no means is this the only way to do it. There's a whole bunch of variations, and I've seen it firsthand, which is actually kind of cool because prior to the current job I'm at right now, I was actually working on setting up investment accounts for some pretty complicated and layered structures that some of our clients were doing. Some of our more wealthier clients. But like I said, this is one of the more basic ways of how to do things. So any questions right off the bat right there? Anybody? I hope I didn't lose anybody. I know I'm kind of going fast, but just kind of wanted to cover the basics.
I have a question. It's Wendy. Hi.
Hey, Wendy. Hey.
Hi. Okay, so I'm assuming you're going through an attorney with this. So what are the costs to set up this particular structure?
Yeah, so and you're right, exactly. So and we are going to talk about that a little bit later as well too, as far as getting you'll want to get a CPA and an attorney to basically the CPA will help you with the entity structure of how you should structure all of this. And then you take that plan and then you take it to your attorney and say, hey, this is the plan that my CPA recommends. Help me draft up the documentation. So with all that said, if you're doing a basic structure, I mean, at the end of the day, attorneys are gonna, you have your high end attorneys and then you have your low end attorneys and everything in between. So it really depends on the one that you're going to be working with more so. So it can range anywhere between a couple $100 on the low end as far as setting. Well, and you also have to think about like if you're going to be setting up an LLC, you have the $800 a year tax essentially or fee on that. But then they'll set up you can get the LLC set up as well, which could be a couple $100. You can get the land trust set up as well too. That'll be a couple $100 to maybe about $1,000. I've heard $1,000 on the higher end because they're not too complicated. And so I would say if you were putting together like this kind of structure, this kind of thing, I would say it'll probably run you anywhere between, I would say on the conservative end, to 2,000 to 2,500, and that's just kind of guesstimating. But like I said, that's on the conservative end. So
Okay. And then also, you set up the land trust, but then and because this is related to real estate, do you put in for each property multiple CD or LLCs, or how does that work?
yeah, so that's also another highly debated thing in the real estate community is structuring whether you need to get one LLC for for each property or one LLC for maybe 2 to 5 properties or one LLC for all your properties. But it kind of comes to your risk tolerance because at the end of the day it just boils down to, all right, if I do one LLC for each property, then you have a specific LLC protecting each property. But if you have maybe one LLC for 5 properties, that's a bit more risky because if something goes wrong and you screw up and somebody sues you and they actually win in a court case, then basically all 5 of those properties are at risk as opposed to just one if you had done one LLC per property. Does that kind of make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah,
And then
it's all about risk tolerance. Yeah.
so I mean, I guess you could segregate it by geography. I mean, if you're starting to buy a lot of properties, maybe you segregate it by geography. I don't know. But then
Yeah.
this nominee trustee, though, it's just a one-time temporary designation to keep yourself below the radar.
Yeah. So and it's like I said, it's perfectly legal. There's nothing sneaky about it. So essentially, there are plenty of attorneys out there that have their name on thousands upon thousands of land trusts and documentation that are out there that are filed with the state and everything because of the fact that they hold themselves out as or hold themselves out as offering that as one of their services. So yeah, they'll basically you hire them to be your nominee trustee. I know some charge anywhere from $200 to $300. They basically sign off on everything, and and then at the end of the day, after they finish signing everything, I forgot the name of the form off the top of my head, but it's essentially a resignation form. So as soon as they sign off on everything, they sign off on the resignation as the nominee trustee for your land trust, and then reappoint you or whomever you want to be the actual trustee going forward.
So when that person resigns and then designates you as the current trustee,
Mhm.
it's done in such a way that you're not visible.
Right, because your trust and your trust documents are your property. You don't have to file that anywhere. That's all in your file cabinet at home. So you can make changes. You can change the trustees. You can make changes to your documents and everything. You don't file that with the state or anywhere else at the end of the day. So nobody's going to know unless you voice it out to the world that, hey, I'm changing trustees on my trust. Nobody's going to know but you. So anytime anybody does a record search, they're going to see, your you can trust me Esquire attorney, and his name's going to pop up everywhere. But if anybody calls to inquire about that property, he's just going to hang up on them. He's not going to tell them anything. So
Okay, so basically what you do is when you initially set up the trust, okay, you designate somebody as a trustee, but then, and that's what everybody sees.
mhm.
So they're the people that are fronting this trust, but then nobody is going to be privy to the amendments, which is essentially what's happening.
Yeah,
Because you're
yeah,
making an amendment, right? Okay,
right,
okay.
exactly. Yeah, they're just yeah. Think of them as the front man in terms of just their name showing up, but they don't have any other involvement or control at all with your trust.
And this is common practice?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Not a lot of people know about this, but it is a strategy that people do use. And so once I came across this, and like I said, I'm a nerd at heart. So once I saw this, I was like, oh my God, I have to tell people about this. So and yeah, and it's like I've talked to, believe it or not, I've talked to quite a few people that have been in this industry for years and they've never even heard of it. So this is the first step to getting the word out. But yeah, it's 100% legal. So.
But then if you are investing in real estate and
Mhm.
you've taken out a mortgage, the
Mhm.
banks have to be privy to the changes, don't they?
Nope. Only
They
if you
don't.
tell them. As they only care as long as you're making the payments, they couldn't care less.
Mm, okay.
Seriously, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like from the research that I've done, they in especially these podcasts that I've listened to that are attorneys that have seen situations they come across. They're actually like, yeah, we've had clients that that they don't know what they're sometimes they don't know what they're doing or they jump the gun on things and they reach out to their lender saying, hey, I changed the trustee or I made this change or that change, and then all of a sudden it starts popping up with all these questions, and then the lender's like, oh well, what changes are you making? You need to tell us what's going on and blah blah blah, and then it opens up a can of worms. But at the end of the day, that wouldn't have happened because, like I said, they really don't care. At the end of the day, they just want you to pay the mortgage payment, and as long as you're paying it off, you're good to go.
But then when you take out the mortgage, it's not,
Mhm.
it's now not under your name, it's under the name of the LLC. So the LLC is borrowing.
No. So that's the thing. The LLC is only the beneficiary in the trust, but remember that the trust is your documentation, so they never see that. So when they have you sign off on all the mortgage documents, they're gonna basically ask you, okay, yeah, who's gonna be signing off on the mortgage, and then you're basically because you can close on a living trust, and so it could be either your individual personal name or you can close under a trust, and they'll say, oh, okay, you're closing under a trust. What's the name of the trust? Okay, bam, cool. Who's signing off? Okay, cool, and then he just signs it right then and there. That's it. That's all they
And
care
then
about.
the amendment happens, the resignation and then the reappointment.
Right.
To
Yeah, but
you.
you're not going
Okay.
to do that. You're not going to do the resignation and all that stuff. You're going to do that outside of
After.
the lender.
After
Yeah,
that.
you don't want to let the lender know that, hey, we're going to change a bunch of stuff right after we sign everything with you. I mean, not that, like I said, not that you're not allowed to, but it's like that's the whole reason why you're doing this, because you don't want people to know who the actual owner is. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So
So
yeah.
the nominee trustee can fill out all of the mortgage documents, all the information is his, and it's under the land trust.
Mhm,
And then once it closes
mhm.
and the money is deposited, oh, so then do you have to open up a joint account for the nominee trustee and you? So
No,
that,
no, no. Like I said, after he signs everything and then resigns, he's done. He has zero involvement going forward at all. Zero involvement, zero liability, zero anything. That's why they're so willing to offer it as a service. Because after you resign as trustee, even as trustee, you don't. I mean, you have a fiduciary responsibility, but the trustee is not going to take on that liability. So in that case, when he resigns as trustee, as soon as you resign, you have no further involvement at all. So.
hmm, interesting. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so and we'll kind of go through this next part really quick, but we're just gonna show what Walt Disney did. Obviously, his thing is a lot more complex and beyond the scope of what we're trying to do, so we'll fly through it. But basically, what he did was he established a bunch of dummy corporations, and one of them was actually MT Lot Inc. or Empty Lot. Get it? So he came up with some funny names to title these corporations, but basically did the same thing. Came up with some LLCs and did some possible holdings LLCs and different layers, and because it can get pretty complex. I've seen them get pretty complex as well too. So he would do something like sector 123 trust or what have you. He would have his corporation empty lot, and the whoever would be representing the trust would probably be an attorney of his, to sign off on all the paperwork and everything, because obviously Walt Disney's not going to show up to the table to sign off on all this stuff. That's what he has people for, right? So and then making the beneficiaries his LLCs and everything for that asset protection. But I mean, in this case, he would probably just be buying it all via cash anyways. But at the end of the day, like I said, he used options contracts. So any public records that came up after those options contracts were exercised will show the owner as sector 1, 2, 3 trusts. So like I said, the brilliant thing was that he basically bought all these options contracts for all this land at super cheap prices, or at their actual market value, and accumulated them. So basically, out of the 30,000 acres that he got about 27,000 under contract, under his options contracts, and then executed them all at the same time. And the reason why is because, and that, like I said, that's the brilliance behind it, because once you execute them all at the same time, then it's like, oh, okay, he bought all the land. There's no point in really jacking up the prices anymore. But like I said, he needed about 3,000 more acres to add on to Disney World that he wasn't expecting. So so he did have to pay a premium on those, but 3,000 is a lot better than 27,000 in a premium. So yeah, so just like I said, to just kind of give you a quick recap, the title, if he had done it the wrong way, on the title it would have said Walt Disney, and on record it would have said Walt Disney. So if you did a database search, it would have said Walt Disney. So that's obviously a bad thing. So land prices skyrocket. But when you're looking at it from our approach, you do a database search, but you put your little fancy structure together and make sure you do it right, and protect yourself, and you do a search result. Hopefully you got somebody on the other end looking at a piece of paper like this, looking all confused and everything. So that's a good thing, right? So what do you do next? And Wendy, this kind of goes back to what you were just asking. You want to talk to a CPA or tax professional on that entity structure, and then take that plan and then entity structure plan to an attorney, have all the documents drafted, then you're good to go. So now we're going to talk about the asset protection aspect of things, but I'll pause really quick if there are any questions that were generated with regard to the options contracts or any of the process that we just went over.
Yo, what's up, D? I would like to add, this is Lamar here. I would
Hey.
like to add that I actually did run into someone who owned a trust, because I bought a batch of skateboards that were gonna, get made.
Oh, nice.
And, the person actually, the owner actually went bankrupt, and so when I tried to call him back, I had to talk to the trustee, or whoever, the person that owned it, or the trust, whoever ran the trust.
Mhm.
And instead of me getting in contact with him, it's very difficult because he's an attorney and he's super busy and he doesn't have time to talk. And now, even as I get attorneys to find out more, it's very difficult because there's like very little information on who this person actually is. And so
Yeah.
they kind of got me. So I try to call the credit card up and, get everything, reversed. But because it's past 60 days, they couldn't reverse it. And that was that. So,
Mhm.
just a learning lesson for this whole thing, negative and positive, the whole thing.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he was trying to cover himself at some point, or at least in the very beginning, or at some point,
Right.
and just and so, but yeah, and so, well, hopefully, you're able to get that squared away, or found another,
Oh no, you just charge it to the game and keep going. It's all good.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we
All
keep
right.
pushing after that.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, no, but thank you for sharing. Much appreciated. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, these things are out there for a reason. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, you kind of you want to keep yourself protected, especially if you're wealthy. Hopefully all of us can experience that one day and take it from there. But yeah. So okay. So as far as, like I said, the asset protection aspect of things, there are a lot of people that I've come across and that I know and that I've heard of using those asset protection sites that are advertised all over the place. I won't say which ones. I think we all know what I'm talking about. But you see a lot of those ads where it's easily set up your LLC or corporation, just file in 10 minutes and you're good to go. And people believe that, and what it kind of goes back to those things where it's like you don't know what you don't know, and it's very misleading because you're not done. You're not even close. You're still leaving yourself open to not only lawsuits, but lawsuits that you will likely lose because you thought all you needed was an LLC or corporation, and they send you the boilerplate documentation and you're protected. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So let's take a look here. Because when you're creating a business and setting up a business entity like an LLC, you're literally starting a business. You're not, and not just for real estate, it's for any type of business. And so, you kind of want to do a couple things to treat your LLC or your corporation the way that you need to. You need to treat it like a business, separate from your personal life, or else it can cause some issues. So, for example, you'll want to keep meeting minutes. Even either monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually. Even if you have a single member LLC, you even want to sit down for a half an hour, and just write notes of what you've done. what you're working on and what you plan on working on. And, you know, because that's what a business does. They plan, they, you know, track what they've done, and so that they can learn from their mistakes, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and the next part, that's a big part, is that you want to make sure there's no commingling of your personal and business assets. I mean, it does happen, but there's things that you can do to, you know, make sure that you reimburse yourself and things like that. We won't get too deep into it, but you want to have separate bank accounts and make sure your revenue and expenses are separate from your W-2 income and things like that, AKA good bookkeeping. You know, it can become a big issue. I've seen a lot of wealthy people just treat their businesses like a piggy bank. And I'm like, all right, that's not my problem, but they'll have to deal with that with their CPA when tax time rolls around. So it is what it is. But yeah, and then the last one, which kind of alludes to what I was just talking about, is maintaining proper documentation. So for an LLC, that's going to be your operating agreement, and for corporations, typically your bylaws. But yeah, you want to keep that proper documentation, because like I said, these, you know, business mills, or whatever you want to call them, they'll say, hey, you know, drop $500, we'll do everything for you, and then we'll just send you all the documents and you're good to go. But what they don't tell you is that they're going to be, most of the time, not all of them, but most of the time, they're going to send you a boilerplate situation where it's going to be something that is applicable to everybody. And when it's applicable to everybody, it's applicable to nobody. And what I mean by that is, if you just have the boilerplate agreements on file, which are essentially like all of your specific structure of, you know, your business and how you run your business and what to do when this happens and what to do when that happens. If you don't have any of that and you just have this boilerplate thing and something goes wrong, you step in front of a judge and you basically have to say, hey, here's my operating agreement. He or she's going to take a look at it and say, all right, cool. Well, this particular situation that you guys are going through is not even in here. So you've only known me for 5 minutes. And so I'm going to make all the decisions for you based on, you know, state law. And so do you really want to, you know, do you really want to just kind of give up that kind of power to somebody that you know, just met, you know, a couple minutes ago? That's, even though they're a judge and they're going to try and do the right thing. Essentially, if you don't treat your LLC or corporation like a business, neither will a judge. So just treat it like a business, and it'll hopefully work out for you. It'll give you a better chance. Yeah, like I said, it'll better your chances of both the inside and outside protection. And so since like I said, we were going to touch on that aspect of it. What is inside and outside protection? So when you're looking at inside protection, you're basically protecting your personal assets from your LLC's issues, if you will. So say if you're in the normal course of your business, somebody, you know, something goes wrong, somebody sues you, and let's say, yeah, you made a mistake, and, you know, and the judge sees like, yeah, hey, you dropped the ball on this issue, you know, you're liable. In this case, if you have the inside protection, all of your personal stuff is protected. That person should just only be able to come after your business's assets, and unfortunately you would pay them through that. But if the business doesn't have it, at least they can't come after your car, your house, blah blah blah. But then you also have outside protection as well too, which essentially protects your LLC from your personal issues. So it's almost the exact opposite, where say you're driving to visit your family, and you're going down, you know, to hang out with them, and along the way, you know, so it's non-business related, and you're on your way out there, you know, you're messing around texting on your phone, and you accidentally slam into the back of somebody, and, you know, you're at fault, and they, you know, at the end of the day, they say, all right, well, you're liable. And then at that point, at least, you know, yeah, they can maybe come after your personal assets, your house, your car, whatever the case is, but at least they won't be able to come after your LLC. Your LLC is protected, you know, it comes with that outside protection. So, so yeah, but like I said, you're only going to be able to get those benefits if you treat it like a business, because if you don't treat it like a business, the judge is going to see, okay, you're just treating it like a piggy bank, and there's no distinction between you and what you're doing as your business. So why should I treat it any differently? So, so yeah, so like I said, if you don't treat it that way, someone can sue you and obtain what they call a charging order, which is essentially it pierces your veil of liability protection. And as a result, any distributions that you were to take from your business would have to go to the creditor first and foremost before it can go to you. So if you want to take that bonus that you take every year of 50 grand or whatever the case is, nope, it's got to go to the creditor first. So that's one of the huge downsides, is that, you know, they kind of get priority over your stuff at that point. So yeah, so I'll stop it right there. Like I said, didn't want to dive too deep into it. I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes with it, but yeah, a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, a lot of people that I've talked to don't really know about it. Not to their fault, but because they, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm just sharing the wealth of knowledge, if you will. But yeah, any questions?
I have a question.
Hey.
S Corp versus C Corp under the LLC.
Mhm.
Which one do we do?
Well, it also that depends on your strategy. That's a good question. It depends on your strategy. So, for instance, with like rental properties, the preferred method is like and like I said, you want to talk to a CPA to get definitive answers. But yeah, the preferred method for real rental properties is our LLCs. And then if you're gonna be flipping a home or something like that, and doing something like maybe a wholesaling, I believe is another good avenue, would be better suited for S corps. And I I think on a larger, grander scale, you'll want to do a C corp for other types of real estate. Honestly, that's not my strong suit as far as corporations and things of that nature go. So I can't really answer that question for you. If anybody knows that answer, if anybody's got experience in that realm, or if we have an attorney on here, that would want to speak up, obviously. But yeah, so I'm not 100% sure on the C corp aspect of things though.
But okay, so back to the example of Disney. So what he did was he created an LLC, but I think you also said he created a corporation. But I also
Yeah.
think that the LLC can be set up as an S corp or a C corp, and then you also have the standard entity that's under the corporation. It's kind of confusing. So I'm not sure how. I'm kind of confused as to how Disney did it.
Sure. So what you're thinking about is the tax treatment of the LLC. So when you're thinking about the LLC, that they give you the option to be taxed as like a partnership or an S corp or a C corp. And so yeah, so that aspect of it you can change and you can manipulate, or however you want to put it. But at the end of the day, it's still an LLC in that form. It's just tax treatment.
And what did you say was would be an application of the S corp?
I've just seen S corps a lot with like when you're flipping homes and things like that. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I meant to double check on this before the call, but it has to do with like I said, it's more of a tax thing. It's more of a tax benefit aspect of things. But yeah, let me actually research that and get back. And the more so is also because rental properties is my focus. I don't really have too much of an interest in flipping, so that's why I haven't dove too deep into that. But I don't know if anybody else has any insight on that aspect of it. Feel free to.
Hey, what's up, D? Yeah, I have like a little bit of insight on it. So basically, with the S corp, it's a pass-through entity. So that means
Right.
that all the income that you make, it goes directly to you. So that means it passes through your LLC, and you collect the money on your personal return. Basically, it gets lumped up together with your W-2 wages and everything like that. If you have a C corp, then you're kind of taxed twice, because your corporation is taxed first on that net income, and then you're also taxed again when that net income is distributed to whoever the owners are, which would most likely be you. So you or many people. So that's why it really depends on the strategy of the company, of whether they go with S corp or C corp. And with S corp, there's different rules. So like it's
Yeah.
I think it's a California thing, but you have to have like 20, like under 25 members. And I think with a C corp, you can have hundreds or thousands. So think like public corporations when you buy stock and stuff like that. Those are usually C corporations. And so the company itself is taxed, and then once the company gets their share of tax, whatever's left over becomes net income, and that's distributed to the owners, and then you guys are taxed on the revenue that you made from that investment of owning that company. But they're all LLCs, and they all provide protection from your assets.
Mhm.
Well, okay, so but then we're okay, thank you. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great information. But then in the scope of setting up the land trust, the LLC, the whole idea is anonymity. So if you set up an LLC, and then you set it up for tax treatment as an S corp, but you're hiding yourself, then how does that work? I don't know.
Yeah, and it just kind of goes beyond the scope of what
Okay.
we're talking about. Not that I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it offline. It's just the fact that it can get very complicated. So chances are he did it for a specific reason. So yeah, so for instance, he could have just chosen, you know, a regular nominee trustee, and say like he had one of his attorneys that he wanted to have be his nominee trustee for, you know, acquiring all the land and everything. But let's say he has this super high profile attorney that everybody knows that that's Walt Disney's attorney, you know. So at the end of the day, he's basically wanting to provide just an extra anytime you see like a corporation or anything that's kind of input into those, or any kind of entity that's put into those places, it's usually for a reason. It's either for like protection or anonymity. So I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure it's extremely more layered and complicated than what I was referencing right there. But basically, that was like the super simplified version of it. But like I said, to kind of just put a bow on it, he did it for a reason, and it's either for asset protection or anonymity or tax reasons as well too. So
Right, Indy, I think it's about more so control, more so than where the revenue goes, because
right,
it's about controlling the asset, which is the land,
right,
not getting revenue from the land. And so
right,
I think he just wanted to control the land, but hide himself. And then once everything's done, the corporation owns the land through the trust, so it's still blocked, but they still make money from they're the beneficiary, so they still make money from you know, let's say they sold it or whatever, right? When they make, as the beneficiary, they would make the money from it, but that has nothing to do with the control for the trust. The trust is just for a layer of protection for control,
right.
hiding your
Visibility,
control.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and yeah, exactly. That's what, so essentially that's what I was alluding to in terms of the anonymity and protection aspect of it. Because remember, the nominee trustee is only temporary. So those shell corporations, those are probably already dissolved, you know, a very short period after the fact, that after everything was done and all the land was acquired, those are probably dissolved within a very short amount of time. So yeah, it's not necessarily about the revenue aspect of it. It's about some form of control and being able to protect themselves, and just basically getting the job done as far as acquiring the land. It did its job, and then they get rid of it, and then him and his business and you know, the Disneyland Corporation are the ultimate owners at the end of the day, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
I have a question, two questions. One, can the grantor and the trustee be the same person, meaning me?
Yes, yes. So, you know, going through those three components of a trust, you have the trustee, you have the grantor, and the beneficiary. A lot of the times when people set up a living trust, a lot of times it's just themselves. Like if I wanted to set up one, it's D is the trustee, and then I'm also the grantor because I'm putting in all my assets, but then I'm also the beneficiary because I own everything and it's my stuff. So yeah, a lot of time, all those can be the same. You can change them up and make them different people. Yeah. All right. So yeah, okay. So first off, as far as this next slide here, I basically just want to say I have no affiliation and I do not get paid or compensated in any way by bringing up these books. They're just some great books that I recommend that, you know, can seriously change some people's lives out there. They're from the Bigger Pockets Real Estate Forum. And so, yeah, so for instance, the first one here I really like, it's a house hacking, basically how to practically live rent free by investing in real estate. And I think that's one of the next sessions that we'll take a deep dive into and do some analysis so you guys can see what that'll actually look like. So that'll be some more fun stuff. And then yeah, and then investing in real estate with no and low money down. So a lot of people are just kind of stuck on the whole, oh, well, I can only do a conventional loan and that's it. But this book will go over a minimum about a dozen different ways that you can actually acquire real estate and do it with not a lot of money. So yeah, so if you think you can't afford it, you're wrong. You definitely can. So this book is definitely beneficial. And then you know, obviously Airbnb has been a pretty hot topic the past, I'd even say over a year now, but especially it's been you know, a pretty hot topic for a while now. But yeah, if you've ever wanted to get into the Airbnb game, you know, this is a good book to check out. I've heard good things. I haven't read it myself because I'm not necessarily too interested just yet in the whole Airbnb thing. I might do it one day, but yeah. So Oh, and I just kind of wanted to mention as well too, and eventually in some form or fashion, you're going to need to, oh crap, hold on, sorry. You're going to need to be familiar with real estate to some extent. If you have your own business, like Lamar was saying earlier, with the skateboarding business, it's, they're looking for property right now themselves. So it only benefits you to have some, kind of involvement and some kind of, a knowledge to at least set a foundation for you to be able to get on your next journey. So if you want to open up an ice cream stand and you want to get a brick and mortar, this stuff will help. At the end of the day, it's not all just about, rental properties and things like that. So, why not get it? Why not just, kind of get ahead of the game if you can? So with that said, I also wanted to let you guys know that we're doing this again. Yes, we are. The first person to email me at DestinThomasProperties@gmail.com with the phrase based on today's quote, "Every person has two lives," will receive a free copy of one of these books of their choice. So yeah, we had a couple, winners from last time. And so yeah, feel free to, I'll go ahead and like I said, my contact information is in the chat as well too, if you wanted to, just copy and paste it in really quick. But yeah, just kind of wanted to get that out there and get some more knowledge out there for some lucky winners. All right, so then we'll just go over this real quick, potential topics that we're going to talk about in future discussions. All right, how to live rent-free by investing in real estate, AKA house hacking. Like I said, we'll do that on a maybe the next session or so. How much money do I need to start investing in real estate? That obviously is based on your strategy and strategies that you can use to, go ahead and make it happen. So I'm here if you have any questions on, if you want to, if you want help or guidance in setting up a game plan, I'll be more than happy to help. What you need to know and what they don't tell you about real estate taxes, that can kind of come as a surprise. And then next, yeah, common real estate facts and myths that may surprise you. I kind of just like to trickle that throughout the session anyways. How to analyze and underwrite investment properties with real life examples. Like I said, with the house hacking, we'll kind of go over some real life examples of what that would look like. I got a guest speaker lined up. Haven't locked down a date yet, but I'll keep you guys posted. Like I said, keep in mind of any success stories that you want to share with the group as well too. We can all learn. I'm still learning. We're all learning. So, and then more giveaways and prizes. I want to incentivize you guys to come back and stuff like that. So yeah, so wanted to thank you all once again. I know, like I said, it's getting late for some people. I know some people are on the East Coast, so feel free to, hop off and I'll be in touch with you soon. But yeah, please keep in touch. If you know anybody else that may be interested, feel free to bring them in next time, send them the meetup link to join, send me their info so I can send them an invite as well, whichever's fine. Yeah, so I'll open up the floor to anybody with any questions or anything that's on your mind that you want to go over for today.
Yeah, is the land trust, I'm assuming this is not irrevocable. It's a it's a revocable trust because it looks like you can make changes to it.
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's not irrevocable.
Okay.
I know the land trust aspect of things. It can. I actually went to a conference. It was about a month or two ago, and the guy that was presenting, he's one of the gurus of land trust. His name is Randy Hughes. If you want, feel free to shoot me a message or a text or whatever, and I'll send you his information. And he basically provides. And once again, I'm not affiliated, and I don't get compensated or any way for referring him. But no, like I said, he's just a great resource. He has a lot of good info on land trust and asset protection in that regard. And Anderson Business Advisors as well too. They have a lot of awesome videos on YouTube where I actually learned a lot of this stuff as well too, that they'll go over stuff that they don't go over in books. So I really like to listen to them, Anderson Business Advisors. And yeah. And I mean, now I'm at that point where, I feel like I need to go to law school or something because I spend so much of my free time, watching these videos and learning all about this stuff. So I hope it wasn't too complicated or too in depth for anybody. But yeah, but like I said, I mean, if you guys don't have any questions or anything, that's okay. But like I said, at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I want to help people. I wish there was somebody there to help me when I was first starting out. No matter what age you are, you can definitely, still provide some real wealth for you and your family and that legacy that I think we all want to leave on this world. And so, it'll never be a nuisance. Feel free to email me, call me, text me, whatever. And like I said, I'm even willing to set up a one-on-one if you want some like direct help. There's nothing worse than getting broad general information and not getting your direct questions answered. If I can answer it, I'll be more than happy to. If I know somebody that will know the answer, I'll be more than happy to connect you and get them on a call and you know, and or even just, you know, pass you on to them and put in a good referral for you. You know, or I'll just straight up tell you, hey, I don't know, let's figure this thing out together. So yeah, so I'm here for you guys, never forget that. And hey, I just appreciate you all showing up today, so thank you so much. And like I said, I guess that's it. If nobody else has any questions, I will see you guys next time.